Almost. Major. Holy fucking shit, this is major! Welcome to another episode of Almost Major, where we talk about the many major studios and the films they release. Today we are talking about May from 2002. My name is Kevin Tudor. I'm here with Bryden Doyle.
Hello.
And Charlie Nash.
Hello.
And joining us today is a super special guest. It is Katie Rife. How are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm good. I know you primarily from the AV Club film podcast you used to have, but what are you, I know you're a film writer, so where do you usually write at nowadays?
Well, nowadays I'm freelancing, so I have like kind of a roster of places that I work for. If you go on Twitter, link in bio. But it's mostly I do Vulture, Polygon, Rolling Stone, IndieWire, and Letterboxd is mostly where I work nowadays.
Yes, and your shelf life ones, I've been reading those because Mitchell is one of our dearest friends, and they've been sharing those, and I was like, oh, that's exactly the type of shit I like to read.
Oh, I do really like working with them too. Mitchell's great.
Yeah, they're wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. May from 2002, premiered at Sundance January 2002, premiered at Cannes May 2002. This was nominated for 4 Fangoria Chainsaw Awards. Best Screenplay, Best Supporting Actress for Anna Faris, Best Limited Release / DTV Film, and 1 Best Actress for Angela Bettis. I'm pretty sure from the commentary it is Bettis, not Beatus, but whatever. Opened limited release in the U.S. on June 6, 2003 or February 7, 2003. I was getting different info from Box Office Mojo and the numbers. Box Office Mojo says it ran from February to March and then started again in June, so I don't know what to believe. But it came out in 2003. Budget of $500,000. The numbers, for some reason, says $1.7 million, but I find that hard to believe. Opening weekend of $34,000, domestic gross of $150,000, and overall gross of $249,000. And top 5 films that weekend, I went with the June 6th weekend, which I remember this weekend vividly. Too Fast, Too Furious, Finding Nemo, Bruce Almighty, The Italian Job, and The Matrix Reloaded. I saw, I think, 4 of those in theaters. That was a wild time.
I've seen all 5. I
Hell
don't
yeah.
think I saw any of them in theaters, though. I definitely remember around the time The Matrix Reloaded was coming out, that was when I convinced my parents to finally watch the first one on DVD around this time. And I have seen The Matrix Reloaded in theaters now on 35mm. What was funny was it was literally just like we did it as a midnight and like no one showed up, but like I want to say 3/4 of the staff all showed up, non-ironically too. We were all like, no, this movie rules. And Kevin, I'm sorry that you don't care for it.
You know what? I'm so happy for you. That's the best way I can put it.
It's possibly my favorite Matrix movie, which I know is a bit of a hot take.
I would say Matrix Revelations is...
Revolutions?
What's the 4th one?
Resurrections.
Resurrections, Revolution. There's too many R's, man. The 3rd one I like better than the 2nd one and the 4th one. So Reloaded's my least favorite. But I love The Matrix and Bound and a bunch of other Wachowski shit. Anyways, number 1 song in the U.S. this week is 21 Questions by 50 Cent featuring Nate Dogg, Hell Yes. And number 1 song in Canada this week is Into Club by 50 Cent. My God, North America knew what they were doing. May follows a socially awkward veterinarian assistant with a lazy eye and obsession with perfection descends into depravity after developing a crush on a boy with perfect hands. I feel like you're leading a little bit with the perfect hands comment, but sure. Written and directed by Lucky McKee. Prior to this, All Cheerleaders Die in 2001. After this, The Woods in 2006, The Woman in 2011, and the remake of All Cheerleaders Die in 2013. Charlie, you got to watch The Woman, right?
I did watch The Woman a couple days ago. It's okay. Lots of gnarly gore. It's very blunt. I will put it that way. It is an insanely blunt movie. Angela Bettis is very, very good in it. Am I getting her name correctly? Now because I always thought it was Bettis, and now I'm just like, wait, which one is it?
Let's all do a different pronunciation, and then one of us will be right.
Yeah,
Batiste.
Batiste.
No, if she was in High Tension, it would be Batiste. Yeah.
Yeah. And you two, Bryden and Kevin, you watched The Woods, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
Perfectly
which was
fine.
a direct-to-video movie, which is weird. I mean, it's weird to think about that this movie, like, May got, like, really good reviews and, like, was, like, like, made pretty good money on his mom's budget. And then, like, it seems like his subsequent movies have not really taken off. Like, The Woods is DTV, All Cheerleaders Die gets, like, ripped to shreds by critics. I don't know what happened with The Woman. I don't know what it's... Yeah, I imagine it was
The Woman is insanely controversial, and justifiably so, because it's got a lot of upsetting, triggering content in it. And I'm totally split down the middle of it. Like, I think it's very clear what the movie is saying. I just don't know how it goes about saying it is something that I'm wrestling with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with The Woods, the film distributor United Artists planned for a theatrical release, but it was shelved after Sony Pictures bought out United Artists MGM in 2004. So they shelved it for 2 years and then just put it out on DVD 2 years later.
But I watched it on Tubi, and it was like it had United Artists in front of the whole thing, which is so weird.
Yeah.
But that one's good, and like it's got like it's cool watching like May, The Woods, and then I watched also his segment for Tales of Halloween, which is not a very good anthology film in my opinion. But it's really cool to see how like he loves to like use like dissolve transitions and everything, like in superimpositions and everything, and like especially in May and The Woods, like to like how they're used to like convey like a sort of psychological claustrophobia. It is like really striking and compelling, and yeah, and like good use of music too, just sort of convey atmosphere. Like in The Woods, it's all Leslie Gore pop hits, and then in May, it's like kind of like grungy stuff, like
The Breeders.
Yeah, The Breeders. I don't know if me calling them grunge is maybe the wrong word, but like like kind of like 90s alt rock. But yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, The Woman has like too many needle drops in it that just kind of took me out of it in a way. It felt very distracting, and yeah, lots of alt rock stuff, stuff that I didn't even really recognize, honestly, but I was just kind of like, I don't know if this is fitting the tone of like what you're going for with this really bleak, grisly shit, dude. Like,
Sure.
Katie, what else of McKee's films have you seen?
Well, there are a few of his films that I saw at festivals that never really saw the light of day anywhere ever again.
Oh shit.
Yeah, there was one called Kindred Spirits that I saw at a festival that I don't know if it ever came out or anything like that. And funny story about The Woman, I was working for MrSkin.com at the time when The Woman came out.
Oh.
And they asked me
Hell
if I wanted to do...
Oh, my.
Yeah, and they asked me if I wanted to do an interview with Lucky McKee and Angela Bettis about it. And I think I maybe turned in questions that were a little more challenging than they were expecting from MrSkin.com because they ghosted me on the interview.
Oh my god.
No.
Yeah,
No way.
story.
It's a tough movie, though. I mean,
That's a wild story, Katie.
that's insane. Like, I don't know, if you're gonna put that much stuff in there, get ready to talk about it, I guess. I don't know. Like,
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think they were really, expecting to go into the more feminist aspects of it with MrSkin.com, which is fair. And I didn't work at MrSkin.com that long. It wasn't like a perfect fit.
Yeah.
Like I'm sitting there interviewing like Kayla Janice and stuff, just doing whatever I want over there. And then they're like, yeah, we kind of need some just like boobs though.
Boob talk.
So
Anytime you see boobs in The Woman, you feel horrible.
I know, that's why it wasn't a good fit.
Yeah.
The start of Knocked Up? We just need that, okay? That's it.
God.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Starring Angela Bettis, like we said, as May. It says her full name is May Dove Candy. It's in the movie. She says her name is May Kennedy, so I have no idea why IMDb says that. But anyways, prior to this, it was in Girl Interrupted in 1999. After this, in the miniseries for Carrie in 2002, which I still need to watch. The remake of Toolbox Murders in 2004, and just recently 12-Hour Shift in 2020, which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
It's got her and David Arquette.
I have also not seen the Carrie made-for-TV movie, but there's no way it's as bad as the remake that came out nearly 10 years ago, right? I mean,
The remake's not that good, but the Rage
Yeah.
Carrie 2, I kind of like it.
Rage
Yeah,
Carrie
that
2
was
was
kind of
fun.
interesting.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun. People get killed by CDs. I'm in for it. Sorry.
Yeah, and wasn't the
That's so
big
cool.
thing that they changed the ending of Carrie for the TV series because they're like, just in case it gets like picked up for like a season of television or another thing? Like that's the
What
thing
is
I've
just
heard
at
all
the
about.
end? She was just like actually gets out of the grave. And she's
Yeah,
like,
no, like I mean, spoiler alert, but from what I've heard, Carrie lives at the end of that, and then like I don't know, drives away to another state or something, and I'm just
Goes
like,
from
"What?"
town to town, just destroying them telekinetically.
When's your prom? When's your prom? Yeah, I'm coming. Yeah.
She becomes a DJ,
Yeah.
a prom DJ.
Oh, that would kick ass. Jeremy Sisto as Adam. His full name is Adam Stubbs. Get it? Because his hands get cut. Prior to this, Hideaway and Clueless in 1995, both with Alicia Silverstone. I did not know that about Hideaway. He played Jesus in 1999 in a miniseries for television.
I can see that.
Yeah. After this, of course, 6 Feet Under, which he's great on. 13 and Wrong Turn in 2003. And, of course, we got to bring up that he was in 64 episodes of Law & Order, because, of course.
Yeah, his character in 6 Feet Under honestly would be a better fit for May, in my opinion. I feel like they would actually be fine together, considering how fucked up he is on that show.
Exactly, yeah. Lastly, Anna Faris as Polly. Prior to this, they mentioned this in the commentary, which was so funny because I watched this. It's a movie that truly doesn't exist. It was like her first movie called Lover's Lane from 1999. Terrible shit. A Scary Movie 1 and 2 in 2000 and 2001. After this, Lost in Translation in 2003. It's a Smiley Face in 2007. House Bunny in 2008. And was on the TV show Mom from 2013 to 2020. She was on a show for 7 years. Did you all know that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the pilot of Mom, and I was just like, okay, well, that doesn't seem like it's right. And then, like, I was like, oh, it's still winning Emmys or getting nominated? I'm like, okay, good for them.
Yeah. Dude, my dad knows exactly when that show came on. Trivia. There's not really that much interesting trivia for this movie. I did listen to both of the commentaries, which were actually, like, really fun. One of them had, like, Bettis and the other woman that was in it. Oh, God, what's her name? That Anna Faris is with. She showed up on it and it was, like, really funny. Then there was another one with just the caterer was on it and Ryan Johnson, because he's one of the editors. And it was just like both of them were really funny, but like a lot of them was just like, oh, this scene, it was a little bit longer. Oh, this scene, remember that day, blah, blah, blah. So it was like fun, but there was nothing like, holy shit.
Is it Nicole Hiltz?
Yes.
Is that her name?
Plays
Yes.
Ambrosia.
Ambrosia.
That's a very funny reveal for her name, too.
Yeah, she's really great in it. It was really funny on the commentary. But, I mean, there's a lot of nods to Argento in it, like the book that Sisto is reading whenever May first talks to him. It says in the commentary that it was an Argento book. He has Argento pictures and he wants to go see Trauma at the Beverly. It's like, yeah, I get it.
Opera poster hanging on his wall. Or
Yes.
like some form of it that he's also like altered in his own ways. So
Yes,
Yeah, and then
yes.
and then when he's showing his short film, it's like the end credits are in Italian, which is a very funny choice of pretension.
He's so cool. What was another thing? Oh, like when she calls him and whatnot, he was just like, yeah, that was a nod to Taxi Driver. And I was just like, yeah, I got it. And yeah, but I mean, I'm going to put up both the commentaries. They're pretty funny.
You know how when you meet someone and you think you like them, but then the more you talk to them, you see parts you don't like?
Everyone always thought May was different.
Jesus, what are you doing? Relaxing. Doesn't it hurt? Ow! You crazy bitch!
But really, she was just misunderstood.
I need a real friend. Someone I can hold. Don't be mad.
Then, one day, May met Adam.
Hello?
The boy I saw today is different.
So what do you do, May?
I work at the animal hospital. Some people think it's kind of gross.
I love gross.
Really?
And she thought he liked her just the way she was.
Oh, I'm bleeding. May, this is weird.
You like weird.
Not that weird.
But May's new friend turned out to be just like everyone else.
I'm sorry things didn't work out between us. It just didn't feel right.
So many pretty parts, no pretty holes.
So May decided to make a friend of her own.
I need more parts. You have a beautiful neck.
I love your tattoo.
Can I get a few more measurements?
I love your hands.
You have really beautiful legs. You're gonna look perfect.
May.
Anyways, initial thoughts. Katie, as our guest, can you send us off with initial thoughts for May?
On May, well, May is a movie that I think of as like, when May came out, I think it was more, I think it's more of a influential movie than sometimes people give it credit for, because when it came out, you didn't see as many of these, like, you know, character studies about weird girls who are, you know, coincidentally into stuff that, like, kind of like gothy guys think is hot.
Until they show it off and they're just like, oh no.
Yeah,
no, I just like it in movies.
It's a cautionary tale, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that May is a very pre-internet film. I think May would have been able to find love on the internet.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she would have been able to find somebody who was down for all this gut stuff on the internet. Yeah, I watched this again a couple years ago for another podcast, shout out Horror Queers, and I felt like it mostly held up, except for, like, there's the tone of it is very much of that kind of, like, fanboy era, you know what I mean? And it does have a little bit of a fanboy, you know, it's sort of a gothy version of, like, the inherent unknowability of women, which is a little bit juvenile, but you know, I was in high school when this movie came out, and so it was very much like the wavelength that I was on and I needed at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, because I saw it when it came out, and I remember being kind of disappointed because I thought it was like going to be like the most goriest movie ever, but obviously I was like, I don't know. I was like 13 when this came out, so like I probably saw it when High Tension came out, and I was like, why isn't it like High Tension? But I'll go with more initial thoughts. I rewatched it last year because I hadn't seen it since it came out, and I pretty much think the same as when I rewatched it last year. And I think it's a fine movie that's elevated hugely by Angela Bettis, who is phenomenal in this movie. Like, people can play awkward, but they always look like they're trying so hard, and she is trying in it, but she hits so many different little ticks and things that are just like, even people that are playing awkward would not want to do that because that's just so uncomfortable. Like, she really commits to it, and I think Sisto's really good in it. You know, thankfully he doesn't have that much to do. It's more about May and Anna Faris and stuff like that, but yeah, Bettis is just so good and striking, and you want to watch, but goddamn, at the same time you just don't want to watch because of how awkward she is. And then Anna Faris, of course, as always, is just hilarious. Like her lines where she's just like, what's a scalpel? Oh, that's what it is. And then what did she say? A rectal examined for a Miss Kitty. Oh, Miss Kitty. Oh yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, she's always great.
Anna Faris is kind of underrated, I think. I think she's a very good comedic actress. And yeah, she'll get more jobs than she does. But yeah, I agree that Angela Bettis is what really makes this movie work. Like, it could land in sort of an incel type of place without a really compelling lead performance, but she gives it that dimension to where you can, like, identify with May and be kind of freaked out by her at the same time.
Yeah, I can feel that Lucky McKee feels a lot of himself in Jeremy Sisto, so I'm glad that was not what the movie was about. Because boy howdy, like in the commentaries he was just like, man, have y'all ever seen this movie by Argento? And I was just like, yeah man, I have. Which seems like a totally nice guy, but totally that type of guy that you're describing, Katie. But yeah, it's also just like, it's 90 minutes shot on film. Angela Bettis is great in it. It's probably on Tubi 24/7, so just check it out. Charlie, had you seen this prior, and what did you think?
Yeah, it's funny, the first time I saw this, I was in high school, so I think it was like 2006, so a few years after it came out. I remember it was the worst. I watched it on Halloween Day, and it was the worst Halloween day of my life because, usually when you're sick in high school, it's usually like, woohoo, sick day, but getting sick on Halloween to the point that you're like, you have a fever, it just
Not
sucks.
fun.
It's not fun. It's not fun. So I went home, and it was on like Stars, I think, or HBO, one of the two. So I watched this, and I was like, oh yeah, well at least I get to watch this movie, and I liked it a lot at the time. I watched it maybe one other time, like 10 years ago, and thought it held up pretty well. I think I think it's good. I don't love it as much as I used to. I agree, Angela Bettis is incredible. I think all the acting is great. I love how it's 90 minutes, but at the same time kind of wanted more. They
did cut out a lot of the opening. Was supposed to have more of her backstory with like her father and her mother, but it was just like, that's not what more that I wanted. I wanted more of
Is that
her.
why Kevin Gage is built above?
Yeah, Kevin Gage. Waingro from Heat is her dad. I'm like, that could explain a whole lot.
The detective from Strangeland.
I was about to say that.
Yeah. God damn it. Yeah, but like the stuff with her parents, I'm simultaneously like, I'm glad they didn't go too much in depth into that and make some dumb superficial psychological analysis out of like, maybe she wasn't raised right or something. But like, it's clear that they're like, they love her, but they're not. They love her, but they're not normal. I think that it's funny. I remember Jeremy Sisto. When I was a teenager, I was like, Jeremy Sisto has every right to be weirded out, and Anna Faris is being mean. That was the memory that I had of it. And now I'm like, the stuff with Jeremy Sisto, I'm like going back and forth on of like, she's giving out signs that she's clearly unwell, like early on, and then what he's ultimately too weirded out by, I found to be pretty mild, where I was just kind of like, okay, that's weird, dude, but like, you like, not like you couldn't see the other signs before, but also I feel, I think the movie has a lot of empathy for May too, which is what works. So that all that stuff came out a little murkier to me, which is simultaneously fascinating, but also kind of like had me shrugging a little bit. What I found to be interesting this time around is Anna Faris. I remember her just being kind of like mean and gossipy, and like, no, she's actually just like kind of
having a good time.
I mean, she's not that bright, but she's not mean-spirited really at all. And in fact, when May feels betrayed by her, I'm kind of like, well, you were never exclusive. You never made that clear. And in fact, she invited you to join her for a threesome. So like, I don't see what the big deal is with this. Like, but that made her character more tragic to me in the end. And yeah, I think some scenes are incredibly effective. I think the ending shot is very powerful. There is one scene involving blind children, which I remembered, and I was like,
very
what's the deal with
unintentionally funny.
Which I was like, what's the deal with this in my memory? And then even watching the movie, I was like, what? Like, I get what it's saying.
I disagree. I think it's intentionally funny. I think it's supposed to be.
You think it's intentionally funny?
It's supposed to be funny. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's so bizarre.
You wouldn't go that grand guignol about it if you weren't trying to be funny.
Yeah, because like,
okay,
we can get into it when we get into the plot, but yeah, it's just so strange. And I like that this movie's strange. I think it's a good debut feature and, nice calling card for Lucky McKee. I do think it's interesting that, and this got Roger Ebert's. The way I found out about it was Roger Ebert gave this movie 4 stars and reviewed it on his show with Richard Roper.
Wow.
Hated it. Roger loved this movie. And said it was like the first film in years that genuinely scared him. And it's a great review. So that was how I found out about it. And yeah, I definitely think it's worth checking out. It's also on Shudder, so if you haven't watched it, it's 90 minutes. And there's certainly far worse horror movies you could be watching it during this time of year. So I'd recommend it with a few caveats. But yeah, for the most part, yeah, solid.
Check it out. Watch Jeremy Sisto just go, oh, Jesus Christ, every time he sees May.
Yeah.
That's always really funny when like they'll have like some pop song on the soundtrack, or not even pop music, but like music on the soundtrack is here in like Bettis' head, and then like the moment she startles him, the music just like cuts as like the illusion is shattered. He's just like, "What the fuck are you doing here?" Yeah.
How long were you standing out here for 2 hours? That's some creepy stuff right there, folks.
I mean, that's
really
the thing. It's
2 hours.
Everything that she says, I'm just like, that's a red flag. But then when it comes down to like when he's like, this is going too far, I'm like, dude, like that people probably we'll get into it. But
I was just clapping. I was like, don't say you like weird if you don't actually like weird.
I mean, that's
I'm
ultimately
saying. This is a careful what you wish for type of movie. Everybody wants a goth girlfriend until she's got a house full of taxidermy.
I mean, until she starts screaming at the doll her mother gave her.
Yeah, you wanted a goth girl, did you not?
I mean, it does especially feel, watching this now in 2022, it does feel especially like, and I think the movie is agreeing that, like, he kind of wants to have it both ways. I think the movie is cynical towards him for kind of leading her on and saying everything's fine, and then being like, she's a freak behind her back.
Yeah,
like, he's an asshole. Yeah,
there's that great shot where he's like smoking and he opens the door and May is already out there and she gets to hear what they're talking about. It's just like, that could be very hokey, but it was just like actually really sad.
Because like cutting closer to her as she's like, the pain sort of like hits her when she realizes they're talking about her.
Yeah.
He's
wouldn't
such a hypocrite.
Right. I wouldn't go so far as to call this like a feminist movie, but I think it's a lot more self-aware about that kind of like nerd bro culture that was very big around this time than a lot of movies are. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's held up well. Because like when you look back at that era, a lot of the critiques that people make of it are in this film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like Eli Roth saw this movie and he was like, no, I want to do a movie about Jeremy Sisto.
And make him, and eventually make him empathetic, even though I'm gonna, because Hostel is like, at first, that's my issue with Hostel, is at first it's like, he's clearly making fun of how dumb these people are, thinking they can go have sex with anyone in a foreign country and get away with it. But then, it's like, he's like, but aren't you empathetic to this guy? And it's like, I'm empathetic to anyone getting tortured, but like, by making this guy a total sweetheart by the end of it, I don't buy that shit at all. Like,
if you watch the original Bravo's Scariest Movie Moments, you get a segment where Eli Roth talks about Audition. He says, like, this movie hits home because if you lived in New York, this is like going on a date with any crazy girl or something like that.
Oh my God.
Oh boy. Oh, we love
gross.
him. Our greatest auteur. Am I right? Yeah. Can't wait to cover Cabin Fever. I haven't seen that since it came out, so that's gonna be fun.
I remember that being one of his better movies, but I'm sure it's got plenty of shit that I don't remember. That's not good.
Bryden, initial thoughts?
Yeah, so I had never seen this before, even though I'd heard it was like very good. You know, the Roger Ebert review, that is like very interesting to give it 4 stars, especially because I feel like Ebert's known for like, Ebert hates horror movies, and it's like, well, like he's sometimes going to surprise people. But I really liked. I think this movie is very well made. I did find it to be kind of a taxing watch because I just like, it's so like it is so set in this person's head and everything, and like it is like so. It's like such an unpleasant place to be, where it's like so lonely and so sad and everything, where and like in a way that I feel like a lot of empathy towards her and everything, but it's like, it's also just not always the way. I also watched it like yesterday in like the middle of the day when it was nice and sunny outside. It's not always the place I want to be into movies, but it conveys that headspace very well. Like the way that like it will like shoot her like looking at the doll case, and it will be like her reflection like overlapping with the face of the doll and everything, showing like, you know, just like showing how she does identify with this doll very strongly and projects a lot onto it when she is just so lonely. Just like simple stuff like that is like really effective, I think. And the sound design is really really evocative too, like and that's the thing that Vicky is like really good at too, and like something like The Woods, where like
The
Woods
really,
like, gets at like the squelching of like the rubber shoes on the floor and everything. And here you have like, it's how it carries over into other scenes, like the sound of like the glass cracking, how that will like carry over into like a scene of her like, I don't know, like working at the veterinarian hospital and everything, and it will be like it'll like just sort of like lend, like, even if it's like a mundane activity, you just feel like really uncomfortable, like thinking like there's something going on. And also how, like, especially when you get near the end when she's like sewing like this human skin and also like just like regular fabric, it's funny too how the movie like it will like cut to like the shot of like what she's looking at, it'll be like human skin, then back to her, then it'll be the fabric, and it's like how it all just like eventually like showing like this person's mind just crumbling, how it all just becomes like one sort of material that she's working with, like as she's making this literal Frankenstein monster. It's like really unnerving. And Bettis is very good, like you said, Kevin. You know, it is like she's exerting a lot in the performance, but I think that like works for the character because she's just trying so hard to fit in and everything.
Oh yeah.
Just like, but yeah, you do feel a lot for her, where like the way her voice will just sort of like drop to like a tinny sort of like pitch, where she's just like saying, oh, like you could use my machine or whatever, and then like the way she'll say it too fast and everything, but Yeah.
And then by the end, she's got like a completely different voice. It doesn't.
Oh, yeah.
That's so effective. How she's
Yeah.
like dropped a pitch and everything. Yeah,
Mhm.
and she's like sarcastic too when like she's asked about like by Sisso's new girlfriend, like, do you want some vodka? She's like, that sounds great, and everything. Like,
Yeah,
snippy about
Funny
that.
in that, in the commentary they mentioned this, she says sound great, and they were just like, let's just keep it in because that sounds weird. That she just says sound great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was noticing while you were talking, I was just clicking on random crew people, and this guy who shot this, Steve Yeldon, this is the first movie he shot, and then he shot all of Ryan Johnson's movies, which Ryan Johnson's one of the editors on it, so I guess that's where they met up. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And knowing that this is like for $500,000, it looks better than some movies that are made for like millions of dollars. It's like,
yes.
incredible.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. And I don't know, it's a bit disappointing seeing McKee seems to have like sort of gotten like stuck in, not to like knock entirely on like direct to VOD fare, because you could find good stuff in there, but like it seems like a lot of his movies are just kind of not really going anywhere like this one did. It seemed like he might be. But yeah, at the very least this is a very good movie. So yeah. Looking forward to talking more about it.
Yeah, it doesn't help that like his next movie was a theatrical United Artists movie and then just sat on a shelf and then direct to video. It's just like he had this calling card and then was going to cash it in and then wasn't able to. So
yeah, and like he was on.
Disappointing.
I haven't seen the show, but like he's like one of the guys who contributed to Masters of Horror and everything. When you are contributing to a show with that kind of title literally ascribed to you, it's like it does set up like promise that maybe is hard to follow up on. But.
Yeah, I don't know if I saw that one. I think it's called Sick Girl. Most of the ones I've seen from Masters of Horror, they exist. It's kind of interesting, but yeah. Let's get into the plot. May Candy, I still don't believe that's her actual name, is a woman in her mid-20s who suffers from a troubled childhood due to her lazy eye. She has very few social interactions, her only true friend being a glass-encased doll named Susie, made by her mother and given to May for her birthday with the adage, if you can't find a friend, make one. I'm curious because, I don't know, because I feel like since I first saw this, I always knew, even from just the trailer, that she was going to cut up a bunch of people and make them into, and I don't know if that's supposed to be more hidden or if they just advertised it badly, or I don't know.
Well, one of the first things you see in the movie is, I think you first see like a bunch of falling doll parts, and then she's like clutching the eye that she gets out. And then the whole movie is like just sort of working its way.
Yeah,
back
it starts in media res.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm not sure if it's just supposed to be like, if it was advertised weird or if it's supposed to be
well, to be fair, like Carrie, everyone went into Carrie knowing that she was gonna burn down her prom. So
right, those trailers,
Yeah, that just makes it a psychological character study, right?
Yeah. Yes, yeah. So I was always curious about that, because even when I first watched it, I was like, she's gonna cut up those people and do that, right? And then I was just like, okay, she did it, but I didn't know if that was supposed to be, if it should have been advertised that she's just weird. What is she gonna do? Because I felt like from the trailer it was just like, yeah, that's what we're getting, and we got it, which is perfectly fine because I think it's a good movie. But anyways, May works as a veterinary assistant. Her the eye doctor. Putting big words in Wikipedia, this is ridiculous. Fixes May's lazy eye, first with glasses and then with contact lenses. May becomes friends with Adam, played by Jeremy Sisto, a local mechanic. She has a fixation on his hands, which she considers to be the most attractive part of him, and they start dating. This is
sorry.
Go ahead.
The shot of him with his hands and the dent on the car. Did anyone else think of James Spader in Crash? Because I was like, that feels like a direct. That really does feel like a direct reference, because there's like almost the exact same shot with like the exact same kind of dent on that car.
That would
and I
track,
was
yeah.
Because they're also
Sisto,
a bunch of outsiders.
Jeremy Sisto, James Spader, JS.
Well,
no, that's good though. I like that's. There is like lots of like close-ups of like just like discomforting close-ups where you like really like heighten the sound of like hands rubbing over skin and everything, and knowing like the violent, as the movie turns violent and everything, like it starts to take on this sort of like uncomfortable like ambiguity of like, what turn is this like encounter gonna take and everything. So it's like really like the way they sort of like film it like at the start is like very effective.
This next sentence is very funny. May's lesbian colleague, Polly, begins to flirt with May. Her lesbian colleague. We all have them.
That's how I introduce everyone at work. Everyone who's new at work, I go, this is my lesbian colleague, boy.
Speaking of this era, man,
Melinda.
Y'all gave me the I Kissed a Girl Katy Perry double feature for my appearance on the podcast.
Oh,
sure did. Sure did.
Early 2000s lesbianism double feature. Thanks, guys.
This one is somehow more tasteful than High Tension, but boy, howdy, that's not hard to beat.
We'll get to it.
Yeah.
Even back in the day. Yeah, we'll get into it. Yeah.
well, even that, it's just like she is still somewhat tasteful, but then she's still like the kind of temptress lesbian friend who as soon as she sees her, so but at least with that trope you get Anna Faris being funny. Yes.
Yeah. She's heightened for sure. I mean, everyone in this movie is a little heightened, but like it's the perfect type of like Anna Faris knows how to heighten it just to the right amount, I think.
Want to watch me file? Yeah.
Why don't you come over sometime and we can like eat some melons or something? Like, it's
like what? Yeah. They dance. She's like, "Do you like pussy cats? Do you like pussy cats? Get your mind out of the gutter." And I was just like, "You're laying it on pretty thick here, Ferris." One day, May remarks that Polly has a beautiful neck. During their flirtation, Molly gives May a pet cat named Lupe, which we all do.
The other thing that I think is very funny about, and intentionally so in this movie, is that whenever she compliments them on their body parts, it's like they ask her a question and then completely unrelated, like, "You have a beautiful neck." Like, what does Anna Faris ask her? And then she takes a beat.
Anna Faris is like carving a pumpkin or something, and then she says that, and she's like, "Thanks."
Like, what are you doing for Halloween? "You have a beautiful neck," and then Anna Faris is actually very flattered. Like,
May invites Adam to her apartment, and he shows her a film that he made for his university called Jack and Jill. The film reveals the story of two young lovers who go on a picnic and end up eating each other. May becomes aroused by the cannibalism in the film. That's a line that you just wrote. It's
not untrue. It's not untrue.
I know.
Look,
it's just
the other thing that I was thinking was, I was like, well, Trouble Every Day came out like 2 years prior. I wonder if he saw that and then was just like, I can make that into a short film. Like
Jeremy's sister was like, I could have been Vincent Gallo in that movie. This is bullshit.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
It reminds the Jack and Jill short film. It reminds me so much of Kirk's short film from Gilmore Girls, but I digress.
No white lines don't do it though, unfortunately. This one they got Tommy James and the Shondells instead. But yeah,
yeah. During an intense makeout session, she bites Adam on the lip and it bleeds. Disturbed, Adam abruptly leaves. The great line where she says, "You like weird," and he says, "Not that weird."
Can we talk about this? Is this like, okay, it could have been an accident, and okay, she just smeared his blood all over her. That is weird.
Oh, it wasn't an accident.
I mean, not accident.
No.
Yeah, but it clearly isn't an accident. But it is kind of like, I feel like that Jeremy Sisto like should have been weirded out by like other things.
Oh
first.
yeah.
And
he just ignored it because he wanted to have sex. It's as simple as that.
So is that what the movie's saying? Is that basically he's like, well, he can't have sex with her because it's too weird for him, so that's when he throws her out? Because basically. Like...
Well, he leaves. It's her place. So that's
I mean,
why
he leaves. Yeah. Because I was like, well, that's weird, dude, but like, it's not the word. Like, it's not that fucked up. I don't know. Like...
You made a cannibalism movie, my guy. Like,
yeah, that's the thing. Is like, you make this thing, and then you're giving her the idea of what you're into.
Argento, sir.
And like, but I also feel like, and this is also, I think, intentional. But he literally, like, you could literally explain, "Hey, I made this cannibalism movie, but I'm actually, when it comes to the actual intimacy, I'm not into that. I would like it to be more." He doesn't even bother with that.
Not into eating people, just so you know.
Like, you could just be like, "Look, that's just an outlet, but I would like to be like tender or nice." And of course, him being, I get that this is all intentional, but it is so frustrating. Where I'm just like,
yeah.
Well, then he doubles down in it because whenever she comes over and he's drunk and whatnot, and this other woman's with him, and he just like calls her a shithead and like won't pick her up when she falls off of him and whatnot. It's just
yeah.
like, yeah, this all tracks.
That is and that woman is
she looks familiar.
Zora Zetner, who plays the character Hoop, and it's funny because Rian Johnson later cast her in Brick. She's one of the main players in Brick. So that's really right. So I kind of did the that's how they met kind of thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of overlap between Brick and this movie. Yeah,
I know.
Yeah. And I've always liked her, and I don't know where she's been or what's happened to her. The last time I think I saw her on something, she was in like a couple episodes of Mad Men, but that was like maybe 10 years ago at this point. So anyway,
yeah, and it's interesting too how the movie, like, I think the movie isn't like entirely mean to the people that like May ends up like, you know, lashing out at and everything, because like it's like that kind of thing, like sort of about like looking at how polite people can be, like when like it doesn't have like an entirely pessimistic view of how polite people will be when confronted with someone who's awkward. Like I think it's when initially Nora Zetner is like kind of like not very nice to May when she comes to her doorstep trying to get to her boyfriend and everything, but then like I think like May says something about like, I like your ears, and then she sort of like looks kind of like softened by that, like, oh, I really like your dress and everything, like how like it is like the movie,
and she helps her pick her up when she's yeah.
There are these like fleeting moments of humanity and everything, but then like it is like sometimes like where it just keeps pushing, and like and then like people like they react in ways that they shouldn't and everything, but it's like it's interesting because I feel like perhaps a lesser movie would just have everyone be like, fuck you, weirdo, and everything, just be like super mean and everything, and like I don't know, it's just sort of, it complicates things too, especially like when she's like, especially when she's going after Anna Faris, and like you feel bad for Faris because she doesn't deserve it. Like it's not.
She like, literally has 2 scalpels up to her neck, and she says, "You would never hurt me," and she means it, and it's pretty sad.
It's really sad, especially because it happens so and like you're expecting like a big payoff, and like it's just like it's kind of quiet, which is like really unexpected for like that kind of thing. That makes like the violence more unnerving in a way.
Just the look on her face, yeah.
It's
another really sad scene that's probably not mentioned in this rundown is whenever after all of this happens. Because both May and Adam usually they met at a laundromat, and then a few days later he shows up and he's very put off by her being there and whatnot, and he's like, oh, this machine doesn't work, I gotta go somewhere else. And then she goes in, puts the quarters, and starts it. It's really tough. And also it's just like there's 50 other washers, but apparently whatever. Really sad. Glad she killed him. Anyways, May shouts at Susie and shoves her in the cupboard. She begins volunteering at the school for blind children, where she takes a liking to a sullen young girl named Petey. And apparently her name is Petey because in the script it was supposed to be a boy, but they cast a girl instead and just kept the name, which that's cool. Who makes her a clay ashtray with the name May pressed into it. She gives in to Polly's advances and starts a short affair. Adam stops calling her, and May overhears him say that he is glad he could get rid of her. Devastated, she visits Polly, but finds her with another girl named Ambrosia, who just exists as a pair of legs, which is very funny, furthering May's grief. As soon as the actress who played Ambrosia came on, my girlfriend was just like, she's so funny. Look at just everything she's doing. And yeah, like I said on the commentary, she shows up and she's wildly funny. It's really good. Did I mention that James Duval is in this movie? Here he is. May takes Susie to school and tells the blind children that Susie is her best friend. The children struggle to take the doll out of the glass case, and the case shatters. May and the children are cut by the broken glass. Scooping up the ruined doll, May returns home devastated.
We have to talk about this.
Yeah, I mean, it is the kind of thing where, like, I'm like, that case is cracked. That can't be, like, safe. And then of course, like, the slow motion horror scene of it where, like, it's, like, it's just, like, cutting so rapidly as, like, the pieces fall.
But it's edited in a way where the kids go, she's out, go get her. And then it cuts to the teacher going, oh no, the glass! Where I'm just like, how are you not immediately, like, stay back? Even if it is for dark comedy, I'm like, you are a terrible guardian for these kids. Like, and also, like, I get that the kids are blind, but they're not stupid. I mean, I guess these kids are, but, like, they just crawl around in broken glass. You don't, like, I don't know. It's just...
Oh, it's always that they didn't know, and then when you're in it, you don't know which way to get out of it. So it's very...
There you go.
Yeah. That's
it is very... What is the... I guess that's the thing. Lazy eye, blind children, the eyeball at the end. What do you think is going on here with all of this?
Well,
not
Fulci's
much, I'm
obsessed
gonna be
with
honest.
eyeballs.
Yes,
Yes, he is.
Good point.
Yeah.
But it is like, it's just so because is she trying to impress Adam by, because then the scene, he's the one who says, oh yeah, they're blind, there's like this daycare center.
Yeah, it's so funny.
there.
He doesn't say anything where it's just like, oh, they're blind, and just because they're blind, it doesn't mean that they're not as happy as people they can see or anything.
Yeah.
He's just like, yeah, they're blind.
Well, doesn't she go to volunteer like the second time we see her at the park on the bench where she's like, it like pulls back and then reveals like she's looking at the empty spot that Adam used to sit at, and then like the blind kids are there. I guess that's her just like as another case of trying to fill the void and maybe like provide companionship to kids. Especially because she like was very isolated as a kid when like, people would like come up to her and say, "Are you a pirate?" because she had an eye patch. So like that kind of stuff.
I do remember too. Oh, I'm sorry, Brandon. I started to cut you.
No, it's fine. Please.
I do remember the Ebert and Roper review. Richard Roper was like, I just found this movie so disgusting for no reason, Roger. There's a scene where blind kids crawl through broken glass, and Roger Ebert goes, that is a great scene. That's a great scene right there.
Disgusting for no reason. Come on. Come on, Roper.
It is a big question mark of a scene for me where I don't find it offensive or anything, but I am just like, what is this doing in here? Like, I get what it's doing in terms of, like, she's fully cracked, quote unquote, with the doll representing, but that's, like, pretty obvious. Like, I don't know. It's just very confounding.
I think it's kind of a piece with what this movie is doing more generally with its characters, which is introducing something that, has a lot of pathos to it, right? Like a lonely girl, blind children, and then pushing it way past the point of like good taste, kind of daring you to laugh. And I think that is sort of that is Lucky McKee addressing the sickos in the audience who laugh at that stuff and being like, hello friends, this movie is for you. That's how I interpret it.
I did think about it, and I was like, what if John Waters directed this movie? That scene would have been
great.
Like insanely funny. Here it's just so out of left field that I'm just like,
it almost feels like
like
that scene with the slow-mo and everything. It feels like a war scene because she's like grabbing up all the doll parts and screaming, and it's all silent, and it's just so over the top. In the commentary, there was a part where Lucky McKee was just like, half the kids, they are blind and they are actually in SAG, and he was like, I just thought it was so funny that blind kids have SAG cards, and somebody's like, what do you mean? And he was just like, I don't know, I thought it was funny, and they were just like, okay,
oh my god.
It's just like, because they're blind, they're acting, isn't that funny? And everybody's like, okay, man.
There you go.
And then in the next commentary, he was just like, there was kind of a controversy in the last commentary when I brought up the blind kids, and I was just like, no, you're just being kind of a dick, but okay.
You're making the controversy, bud. Like that's
Well, interactions like that probably happen to him all the time, and maybe that's like the seed of the movie,
That's true. The following day, she meets a young punk played by James Duvall. He asks her if she wants to get some candy with him, and she accepts. May does not admire him very much, but likes the tattoo on his arm. The tattoo is of Frankenstein's monster. Did you guys get that? Okay. At her house, he finds the cat's corpse in the fridge and calls May a freak. May breaks down and stabs him in the head, killing him. After putting much thought into her future action, May claims she needs more parts. That's a great part.
And I will say about the cat killing, I said that I watched this on Tubi, and I think I mentioned to Charlie and Kevin in our group chat about how like Tubi, they'll have like commercials just sort of like randomly interspersed at any particular moment, but then I think like at the exact moment that like she's like looking at the cat and like spraying it, Tubi cut to a commercial for kitty litter, and I was just like, all right, there's some sicko like promoting, controlling the commercials at Tubi.
So good. That's so good. Tubi, we love you. God, Brian, would it just make your entire life if Tubi decided to sponsor this podcast? That would kick ass. But then while we're talking, just immediately we'll get cut off and just a commercial will randomly come in the edit. That'd be funny. On Halloween night, May dresses in a homemade costume resembling Susie, adapts a quote normal personality, and goes to Polly's house where she slits her throat with a pair of surgical scalpels. When Ambrosia arrives, May stabs her in the temples. Very funny scene where she's like, I don't even know what she sees in you, and she's like, turn around, I want to see you do a twirl, and she calls her she keeps saying like weird names. She calls Adam a weird name during this part, and I don't know. It's very funny. Like her.
She calls her Betty Grable. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right. I don't know why she's randomly drinking milk when this happens, other than for the cool shot whenever she gets killed and the blood mixes with the milk. But anyways,
yeah. Well, there could be a sort of sexual release that she's getting out of murdering people. You know, not like I'm hitting anything that is very subtle here, but yeah.
Oh, really? I didn't get that. Next, she visits Adam and his new girlfriend at his house. May murders both of them with the scalpels at home. She designs her quote-unquote new friend, a life-size patchwork doll made from the punk's arms, Polly's neck, Ambrosia's legs, Adam's hands, his girlfriend's ears, and Lupe's fur for the hair. Using the broken remnants of the May ashtray to form an anagram, she names the doll Amy. She realizes that Amy has no eyes and cannot see her, so she gouges out her lazy eye. Crying in pain and bleeding, she puts the eye on Amy's head and begs the doll to look at her. She collapses on the bed beside the doll and caresses it. Her creation comes to life and brushes her face affectionately with Adam's hands. The end.
Yes, and a couple things. And sorry if my reception earlier was like kind of spotty. It was just
you're fine.
But it was really funny when she's rearranging the broken letters from the ashtray, and you see like a short montage of her like rearranging the names. And at one point, she puts like AMY and rearranges it to spell yam. And I thought I just think it's funny that that's a possible name she's considering.
Yam. Oh, Amy. Of course.
And yeah, and I also, it's funny that I actually just watched for the first time, I'd never seen it before, the 1931 Frankenstein film, and it's like really interesting. And on the Shudder Scariest Movie Moment show that they talk about how what's notable about that Frankenstein introduction scene in the whale film is like how it's so silent, where it's just like him turning and revealing himself like very quietly, and like it's kind of interesting. I don't know if it's like McKee doing sort of like a stylistic homage and everything, but it's cool when like the hand just sort of like creepily, like, but very quietly, like, just rises into the frame and everything. The fact that the movie ends so quietly as like these very like outlandish things are happening is like what makes it, I think, all the more chilling. So yeah, that was just stuff that I thought was really cool.
Do you think that's like, I mean, obviously the ambiguity is the point, and I think it is a great ending. Do you think it's almost meant to imply that she's dying? Like that's her last thought?
That's fair.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, stabbing yourself in the eye with scissors probably not going to last that long.
That's a lot of blood.
Yeah, and it's, of course, ambiguous because the whole movie is from her perspective. Who knows? But yeah, I do like the ambiguity, and that it took her to get this far to actually get what she wanted, but now she's probably going to die to get it. It's very, very bittersweet. Yeah. Talking about this movie kind of makes me like it even more.
Yeah. One minor detail that made me go like, oh wow, Jeremy Sisto really sucks is he dresses up in a fucking toga for Halloween? Or I'm just like,
you're Julius Caesar. He plays Julius Caesar.
Yeah.
He's played Jesus. What's next?
Yeah, like, that's your fucking Halloween costume, dude?
Yeah, I know.
It's like the laziest fucking Halloween costume ever. That's what everyone does in college when they don't have anything, and they're like, oh, dude, you need a costume.
That was him with his new girlfriend. He was just like, you don't want to watch my new movie? Oh, you want to go trick-or-treating? Fine, let me get a fucking sheet, and then I'll go as Julius Caesar. Okay.
Yeah. They're probably not trick-or-treating. They're probably just like, it looks like a pretty miserable Halloween where they're just like, it's just the two of them.
Just the two of them getting drunk.
And they don't seem to like each other very much. Yeah, not a fun time.
Everyone's drinking vodka, too. Specifically vodka. I was like, oh, I get it. Vodka's popular. But I was just like, wow. That's kind of like no beer, no wine even, just straight up vodka.
One day I was partying in my basement, and I always used to get like pissed off inside because I would want to party really heavy and no one else would, and then all of a sudden Mark came over, and it's either I had a bottle of vodka or he had a bottle of vodka, but anyway, we were drinking vodka, and I was so happy that I found someone who would drink vodka with me, So, and then Mark would drink vodka with me all the time. I'd go over there all the time, and we'd buy a fifth of vodka, and we'd share it, and that really made me happy.
Like,
yeah, they don't play around.
That's a little depressing. But nobody seems to be having any fun, except maybe Anna Faris, which, again, like, I know they don't even give us that much perspective, but, like, Anna Faris could probably pick up that, like, May's just not as into her as she is into her, So it's kind of like fair, I think, to be like, okay, we weren't exclusive. This was a fling, and now I'm gonna go do another thing I want. You know, like I don't know. Do you think she has a right to be hurt? Because like she never really seems that. At least from my perspective, Angela Bettis just never really seemed to be that into it. And even during the scene, there's the birthmark on her finger that Anna Faris has. That she's immediately like, whoa, that's gross. Like she has that ew kind of bug-eyed moment where I'm just kind of like, are you just so lonely that you're looking for any type of embrace or intimacy and this is what you're taking? Or I don't know, because I feel like everything Anna Faris does is just totally fine, but maybe I'm bringing my 2022 sexual politics into a movie made in 2003 also.
You know, it could also just be like maybe she's just not used to people being so direct with her and everything. I mean, she seems even put off by James Duval asking like, "Do you want to get jujubes or whatever?" She's just like,
such a
"What?"
funny one.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't know, Katie. If you want to, if you have other thoughts on that, I'd be curious.
I don't know. I think you guys give I think Anna Faris's character is one of the things that dates this movie the most. I think it is very much like of that time. I think that the predatory lesbian for laughs was like way more of a common trope at this time.
That's fair.
And I think that it's one of the more dated aspects of the film. Like, I don't think the film is reveling in her sexual freedom.
No.
I think the film is like setting her up to be a predatory lesbian.
Maybe it's just because I like Anna Faris and I think about certain things now. Like, maybe I'm a little bit.
If this movie came out now, they would have played the character differently, I think.
Yeah.
The character would have been more overtly sympathetic if this movie was made now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But, it's one of the more dated aspects of this film to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. They in the commentary, which was very 2002, was just like, oh yeah, man, everybody on set wanted to be there for the scene they made out in, and that was so cool. And I was just like, yep, boys, we're in 2002.
Yeah, there's like some edgelordy stuff, like, and there's like the pursuit works of like the daycare hospital, like using the R word and everything. There is like some of that kind of stuff where it's like, okay, you're like being a bit of a troll here, but
exactly. Her line though of what she says is, go ahead.
Yeah, but at the same time, it is at least somewhat self-aware about its own edgelord tendencies.
Yeah.
And so I will give it, I'll give it half a pass for that because it knows it is being like this, but it still is like that.
Yeah. 1000%.
Yeah.
She does have a funny line where it's just like, will I be able to be with those type of kids? She was like, what do you differentiate different type of blind kids? It's just like,
that was a funny line. I mean,
just like her being the counterbalance to Anna Faris, both of them just not caring about their job. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, my sister's a vet, so
hell
I've
yeah.
seen this movie.
Oh hell yeah.
There's some weirdos at vet school apparently.
Yeah. Lucky McKee did say his sister was a vet, so he mined a lot of stuff from her. He's just like called her, and it was just like for the scene where Sisto is just like, oh, creep me out, do your worst and whatnot. He said that he just called his sister. He's like, what was the worst thing you've ever had to do? And then he put that right in there.
Yep.
Sisto's reactions to everything is very funny in that scene, because at first he's like into it, and then about the end of it, he's just like, I gotta go watch an Argento movie.
Yeah.
Well, I think that Sisto's character is the film at its most self-deferential and most critical of itself, kind of, because Sisto is a stand-in for Lucky McKee. But at the same time, the movie's kind of like, look at this fucking poser.
Yep.
Like, at this,
1000%. Yeah, that's what I thought was, that's why I think is the most interesting about this. It's just like, the guy who thinks he's into weird stuff. It's like, no, you just like horror movies, dude. Like, just like, relax. You're not weird, okay? Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Almost Major. Please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. Please follow the pod on Twitter at Almost Major to keep up to date with what movies we will be covering in the future. Myself, I can be found on Twitter and Letterboxd at KevBonesy. Bryden can be found on Twitter at Bryden Doyle and on Letterboxd at JDoyle. Charlie can be found on Twitter and Letterboxd at CTNash91. Once again, thank you for listening.